And we'll get started. All right. Thank you again. You are here at the Winter Interim walkthrough. That's always fun to say, Winter Interim. And we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A. Like I said, feel free to ask as you go along in the Q&A feature. We're happy to kind of walk through that with you as we go. And I just want to make sure, let's see, is this being shared? Making sure everyone can see. Here we go. Now I can see, you can see my screen. Wonderful. Okay. So, like I said, you're here at the Winter Interim Reporting webinar. We're so glad you're here. And we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, I'm Carly. My pronouns are she, her. Visual description, I have green and yellow hair and a blue background with WASAC on it. I'm the Assistant Director for Need-Based Programs, and so I get to work with you all on the interim report, which is one of my duties. And in general, I work with you all every day through the WCG email, along with my wonderful colleagues. Speaking of wonderful colleagues, in the background, I have Leslie Gonzalez and Victor Fernandez helping with the Q&A. And so thank you both for being here and helping behind the scenes. Appreciate you. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about some updates to the system and different reminders that I have. We'll talk about interim report edits, kind of highlight the ones that we get the most questions on and talk through those. We'll highlight the WASFA corrections process that most of you should be familiar with, but if not, it'll be a good reminder for you if you haven't set that up yet. And then we'll go through the interim process and leave some time for Q&A. I'll probably stop about midway through the presentation to see if we have any questions. We'll do a check-in and make sure we get those addressed as well. All right, so cheers to a new year, everyone. We made it. We're here in 2026. We all might have different feelings about that, but we are here and just appreciate you and all the work that you're going to be doing and everything you bring to that work and how you support our students. So my question for you this morning to kind of get us thinking and going is, what goal do you have for the new year? And this can be a personal or professional goal that you have in mind. Not necessarily a new year, new me type vibe. That is not necessarily my go-to, but is there something you have that you have thought about that you want to work on? Maybe you want to crochet or something professionally that you're thinking about. I'll share with, for me, you'll just scan the QR code if you have your phone to start sharing. And for me, I think a professional goal is we have a lot of implementation to do this year. So just making sure that we do that in a way that is really supportive for you all as we need to implement new programs and things, and then making sure that we have great communication with you all through the WCG email. And then personally, I think my goal is to I'm working on, I started lifting weights about in April. And so a personal goal I have is to do my first powerlifting meet in May. So I'm training for that. I don't see anybody in the poll. Maybe people are not feeling that today. So that's totally okay. Feel free to share. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. All right. I love it. There's some Seahawks pride here. Oh, try one thing a month. I love that. A new thing. That's awesome. Yes, feel that. Keeping your head above water. Hopefully some support around you to help that outside. I love that too. That is so giving for us to be outside, isn't it? Better processes for staff and students. Love that. I think that's always a goal in my heart too, is making things easier, clearer, whatever I can do to kind of support you all in that process. Yes, lowering stress. There's some great ways to do that. I know people have wonderful ways to do that. Breathing is just a huge one, but I love that. So that could be a boundaries thing, huh? No. Anyways, I appreciate you all. Thanks for sharing. I really love to see what kind of people are working on and get inspired by others. So I just wish you best with your goals for this next year. Okay, so a couple updates. So as we left interim last term or for fall, we had some issues that were kind of outstanding, and some we've reported on them, but we haven't necessarily resolved everything. Okay, so the first one is the max CVS amount for WCGC eligible students. That was calculating at the wrong amount for 65% MFI, and that's because we used to not have a different max amount. So now that we moved to 60% MFI as the maximum for Washington College Grant, the CBS amount was calculated wrong, and then giving people different edits. So we appreciate you all for notifying us about this. It is mostly resolved. What I will say is we're still working on those that are above the 65% MFI range. So those that would not qualify for CBS, it's still calculating a max award, and that should be corrected really soon. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. The last big one that I know we all worked on last interim is the eligible for CBS issue. So it was those students that had no in their eligibility window open, but schools were getting edits to award CBS, and then it was also saying eligible for CBS in the student detail record. So we are working on that. We have the fix identified, and we're supposed to be testing that fix within the next day or so. And then we are estimating that that will be fixed before winter interim even begins. Once that is fixed, we will of course follow up with an email to the community and let you know, hey, this is done. You don't have to worry about this, or provide further information should you need it. As always, I'll send a little reminder out at the end of this week to say, hey, interim's coming up. It starts Monday, and let you know, just a couple items that might be helpful for processing this interim report. So those are the issues that we were experiencing and kind of where we are at in the process for those. Let us know if you have questions. Okay, so some features went live since interim. So we have different edit screen features. So we already had the new edit screen, but some things that we didn't have were some features here. So for example, any edits with rejected overrides will show. And so you can see here, there's a one rejected override. So that is when we reviewed your override, and for some reason that override does not fit, or we have another question about it. And so it'll be rejected, and you'll have to take a peek at that to resolve it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in the next couple slides. So another thing, you can sort, once you're in a given edit, you can actually sort your list by rejected overrides first. And you can see they'll be indicated there with a little red flag. So that'll give you an idea, okay, I need to review this one and see what I need to do. And so that's a good new way to kind of sort what you need to do in a given edit. So when the override button is clicked on, the reason the override has been rejected will be listed. So you'll see, oh, okay, so Carly said, students overawarded, please correct the award. And then what you can do is a couple different things. So in this case, I'm likely asking you to change the award. So you'll have to go to the student detail record, which you can get to by right-clicking on the name, which is blanked out here, of course, but there's a little link, and it'll link you to the student detail record page. So if that's what you need to do to resolve the issue, you will do that. If not, you're like, oh, I used the wrong override initially. I actually meant this. You can click in the override explanation for override box. That will populate any override options that you have, but you can also type in an option too. If there's something specific you need to answer, or the override explanation doesn't kind of cover what you're experiencing, feel free to type that explanation in the box as well. So either one works. But yeah, please feel free to use our overrides that we've already pre-populated as well. So it's just some more information for you as you go along the process that will hopefully be helpful, and yeah, help you as you're going through the edits. And then this was already available for you, but just kind of a reminder of the new edit screen features, which was you can sort it by different ways in the edit screen. So you can group them by program if that's how you prefer. Kind of working your list is, I want to do CBS first and then WCG. You can do that, or you can group it by edit type, which would be informational, non-overridable, overridable. So you have a couple different options on how to sort that list and how to work your list. The new account status screen is live. So this is going to look a little different. If you use this screen, maybe a lot of your business offices do, or those that are requesting payments who want to look at a status. the screen's going to look a little different. And so you can choose a program to view detailed account information, especially when you've requested payments, the students that were paid. And so I'll kind of move on how that looks. So say you select WCG, you're going to see a summary of any payments that you have requested and the dates that they were processed. And so this can give you an idea of, what you actually what you selected throughout the year. So sometimes it's helpful if you're reconciling, but it can be a really helpful tool. And so once you're there, you have an option to review all students, some students, any students you want to, or export them to a CSV. So for example, if you were curious about the 10/23/25 payment, you could select the plus sign for that particular payment, and under the payment details, which will be just right below, it would show every student that they were paid and any transactions in that payment request. You can search for a student by name. So if you were like looking for a specific student for a given year, you could select all, and you could search for the student. It would pull up any of their records. And as you can see, you can also export those findings to CSV too. So similar type information that's available to you, just maybe looks a little bit different and a little bit refreshed. Okay, so just reminders about the CBS eligibility checker updates. So the two huge things that happen is CBS was expanded to high school equivalency certificates. So that's a big deal that happened. And then the eligibility open requirement. And so this has been one that's been tricky, I think, for us the beginning of this year. And we hope to have this all figured out and settled down for you all. But basically, the College Bound Award must be used within 6 years of first enrolling, and they must enroll within 1 year of graduation. And so we kind of have defined that in an email, but I will also have it on the next screen, how we defined that specific 6-year rule. It's really important to know that the GED recipients must still meet the 6-year window as well. So they have the same rules as high school graduates. And so that's something to note as you're thinking about the eligibility open window. So here's our example that we have. A student graduates in June 2025, enrolls right away, summer 2025. So their eligibility runs through spring 2031. Then we have a student who graduated in June 2025, but they wait a whole year as they can for College Bound and don't enroll until fall 2026. Their eligibility would run through summer 2032. And this would be indicated by a yes or no in the eligibility open part of the checker. So when you're looking at these students, you see, oh, okay, they have a yes, and that will align with their graduation date or GED certificate date and how long it's been since they've enrolled. Okay, so very important part, an update for this year. We updated the upload screen. As you are aware, that's been updated for a couple different interims, so you're probably really familiar with this. You know that it's incremental file format only, and you will select the year that you're uploading, especially when we're in a couple different academic years still, and you'll upload your file. And we'll walk through that process here as we go through the interim. More incremental file information. I know you all probably are super familiar with this now and bored of it, but just a reminder, it allows you to load partial student data instead of like full file data, also called a change only file. And then you should have used this as your initial full student data upload. So the first time you ever put information in Seesaw for an academic year, you'll put all your students using this file format and upload them into Seesaw. So that's just something to be aware of in terms of you use the same file format to do either. Really important part of this. So there is only a new column that is delete, but it's really important to know that it doesn't work like the files of years past. It's not going to delete any student information and re-upload the information that you're putting into Seesaw. It only edits where there's changes for students. So if you omit a student off your file, it's not going to delete the students from Seesaw. It's really important that if you want to delete an entire student information, you'll want to make sure that you put a Y in the is delete column and include the student information in there. If not, it will remain in Seesaw. So the good news about this is when you're doing change only, hopefully you're not having to look at edits 3 or 4 different times a year again and again if they weren't fixed for some reason. Hopefully you're only having to address new edits as you do the change only information each time you do an upload. So uploading incremental student data, will not affect the student awards. And so really, this is kind of similar to the unit record report. So for those of you that do the URR and hopefully are finishing up or are done with that, congratulations that you're really familiar with this process. Also really important, we always highlight $0 awards on the file equals need met. So 0 doesn't mean they weren't eligible. That should be blank on the file. 0 only means that they had need and it was met. So make sure that if you are trying to report a no award, you leave it blank and only use zeros in the case of need met. Okay, I think I'll take a pause here. Leslie, do we have any questions that I can help answer?
Yes, we do have one about the CBS related to the CBS checker.
Great.
Asking if there are any plans to have an indicator for when a student has one term left before their 6 years runs out, separate from the warning and seesaw, would be helpful to prevent students running out mid-year, but were awarded for the full year.
That's a really good suggestion. I'm trying to think of how we could do that. I will definitely take that into account. I do know, and I think you mentioned this, there is the seesaw information that will say, eligible through summer, eligible through fall. So I know that exists, but it's really good. Let me see what's possible, and I will take that note and take it to our IT team so we can see what we can do. Thanks, Leslie.
And that's all we have right now.
All right, great. Thank you all. Appreciate your great questions and always love suggestions. That helps us do what we can. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about popular edits here. So this is the main one that I think is the most confusing for folks. A student is okay to award, not okay to pay, hasn't been awarded CBS. We do talk about this award a lot just because we get a lot of questions about it. So this happens when a student has verify in either high school GED grad year or high school 2.0 GPA or both. And so this is going to pop up. And basically what it's telling you is you can award CBS. That's fine. They're likely eligible, but there's something you need to do in order to get it to pay. And so I think, and we'll talk this in a couple slides, but basically most schools are putting this at like an offered status, for example, if they need to collect a transcript. Okay, so this edit appears when more information is needed. That should be your sign. Okay, more information is needed for the student. So options to resolve, student is okay, not okay, okay to award, not okay to pay, and hasn't been awarded CBS. So first thing is, do you have a high school or GED transcript? So if you have those things, and final is very important, final high school or GED transcript. It cannot be the transcript that was submitted, for admissions purposes. It needs to be the final transcript that is received. So that's something really important to note. And so if you have those received already, you just need to override the checker. So depending on if it's a GED or a high school transcript, you will do, answer those fields accordingly. So you can see here, is the student a GED graduate? You will say yes. And then there'll be some more questions that will populate that you can use the GED transcript to answer. Additionally, we do ask that if you have the high school transcript, that you do enter the GPA field as well. So make sure that you're totally putting that information from the transcript in. For the GED transcript students, it's assumed that they've met the GPA requirement, so you don't have to worry about doing anything there. So more about the GED transcript. So this is the acceptable documentation for a GED student. And so there's a couple things to note about that. This is kind of what it looks like. Here's a sample version of that. It can be ordered at the URL listed right there. So ged.com/transcripts. And then, so information that you're going to need for the eligibility checker is the testing jurisdiction. So it has to be Washington. So just like our college-bound high school graduates, they have to graduate from a Washington high school. It's the same for a GED. They have to have obtained it in Washington. And then the pass date. So we've got a really good question about, well, what do I put for the academic year for the pass date? And basically, you're going to select the academic year that the pass date is within. So for example, if it was, the pass date is May 2026, you would choose a 25-26 academic year when doing that override. Let's see. Moving on with this one, if you have not received a transcript yet, that's something you're going to need to request from the student so that you can override with information. And so what you want to do in the meantime, this is a lot of times where the question is, okay, well, I don't have a transcript. What do I do actually in the system? And so you're going to want to do the following. You're going to want to award the student CBS and Seesaw and your system. If you can do that via offered status, that prevents disbursement until information is verified. That's what our recommendation. You don't want to override the edit if you're still in the process of requesting or receiving a transcript. And the other important thing to note is this is going to leave the CBS is not okay to pay edit. And so a lot of times people are like, what? I did this. I thought I resolved it. And now I have this other edit and now it's non-overridable. What do I do? Well, we have built it in a smart way, which is that you can still submit your interim report with this edit. The other benefit of kind of it moving from one edit to another is you almost have a tracking piece for these students that you're collecting transcripts for. So most students that are going to sit in your CBS is not okay to pay edit are those that have had this other edit and you've resolved them by awarding CBS. So it's a good tracking mechanism for you, and that could be edit you review from time to time just to check in on the transcripts. And if you have a way within your system to track a transcript as a requirement for a student, that's a great way to do it too, and tie it to the CBS fund. I know everyone's systems are different, so just a suggestion if you have that ability to do so. Okay, I see a couple questions here. Leslie, I'll just take them from here. I think Victor's typing in an answer to Victoria, so thanks, Victor. We have a question. Is there a way to pull data on students reported erroneously as 0 instead of blank to clean up? That's a good question. And I think you can, in your students tab of Seesaw, you can download a list of all your students also through our report. And I'm trying to think if we have like a report that's dedicated to that. So I may ask Victor to take a look at this one and add a little bit more information for you. If not, let me go ahead and take a look after I'm done with the presentation so we can make sure to find an answer for you. Thanks, Victor. Is there a way to cancel or undo an override in the CBS checker? Yeah, so that you cannot do yourself, but we can do that for you. So we have the ability to undo an override if you know you've done one. Oh, shoot, I accidentally put in this grad year, it's wrong, or something like that. Just let us know right into WCG, and we'll make sure to take care of that for you. No problem. So just let us know. Okay, so we need an official high school transcript and can't use the diploma they were issued. Yeah, that is correct. So the only documentation that's acceptable to override and collect in this circumstance is a high school transcript, final high school transcript. Thank you for asking that. These are good ones. Thank you, everyone. I've got some good checker ones. If these students, or if a CBS student attended college 1 year before high school graduated, would the 6-year eligibility start the year the student graduated or the year they attended college? So it's the year they first enrolled. It's not when they graduated high school, it's the year they first enrolled. So like in that example that we talked about previously, here, I'll put it back up here. Yep, wrong one. Thank you. So going back here, if a student graduated in June 2025, it wouldn't start directly from June 2025. It actually starts in the example when they first enroll. And so we're tracking that through Seesaw, since you will be reporting their enrollment with their payment. So it the time starts as soon as they first enroll. So, in these two examples, summer 2025 or fall 2026, that's when the clock would start. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so moving back on here, I think we have one other one that I will answer. If these students are flagged as not okay to pay because of missing high school information, wouldn't they in turn be ineligible for WCG or other state and federal funding? That is an excellent question, and it's actually one that we're discussing. There are different rules for the funds, and so WCG is a little bit different than CBS in terms of funding. And requirements. And so that's a really great question because it is actually something that we are continuing to have a discussion about. I'm sorry, I don't have more information for you, but it does have to do with there being very specific rules for CBS versus WCG. So, yeah, hopefully more information to come as we as we figure more out in this area. All right, thanks you all. I really appreciate these. These are great questions. So the next interim edit I wanted to bring up was student does not have a FAFSA or WASFA on file. And so a lot of times, folks are like, Carly, I know they have a WASFA. I have it right here. What's wrong? I can't figure it out. So here's just a couple troubleshooting options for you that might help you if you encounter this edit. So first, it's usually an ID mismatch. Maybe you have one number off, or maybe the number is not on the application. So that's a big deal too. So maybe you're awarding them under, a WASFA ID, but the student actually put an SSN on their application. And so according to the hierarchy, which we'll talk about in a moment, you would want to report them under their SSN and Seesaw, and that way they can match with the application. So it's usually an ID mismatch. So I would definitely look at the WASFA or FAFSA and make sure that the ID that you have in Seesaw is matching with what is on their application. So that's usually majority of the issues. Could be a student has listed your school on their financial aid application, but most times you're going to know they did because you received it. So that's usually not a problem, but it could be. Could be a transaction number issue. So for example, you're like, oh, I put 1, but it's actually like a WASFA filer, so it's 50 or 51. Could just be a mismatch that way in terms of the transaction number. So those are some common things you can take a look at to try to resolve this one. Of course, we're here for you. Let us know if you have questions. Last one is student has been awarded WCG and WGA in the same academic year. And this one is when someone has received WCG at your school and they also received WA grant for apprenticeship through approved apprenticeship program. And so we just have to do some work on our side to see what is going on with that student, if they're eligible. We may come back and ask some questions. And so you can override this with a couple different options. One is just to say, WASAC to verify that the student is not awarded. And so when I see that override, I'll make sure to reach out to my colleagues. And then if I have any other questions, I'll let you know. And then the other one is if you've already resolved it with us, you've already asked us, you can say my college paid on adjusted cost of attendance, tuition and books only, if that was the result, or you can say, WASAC already verified, okay, whatever you want to say. But for the most part, I know that we need to verify the information for you. It doesn't come up that often, but something good to know. All right, moving into WASO corrections. Okay, these have been available, which we're so happy about. These became available before interim last term. And so we did send an email with instructions back on the 18th of September. If you did not receive that email or you need that email, just let us know, right into WCG. We can help you with that and get the process started for you. Just a reminder, if you haven't yet, here are some steps that are going to be taken in order to get corrections access. We basically just have a form that you complete to get staff registered in the Regent system. Regent is our application provider. And you'll just need to include staff names, emails, and IPv4 addresses, and those can be found at this URL. So if you ever are curious like what those are for folks, they can use this URL to find out their IP address. Once we have that information, we're able to set you up. We will send you an email and some instructions, lots of good information. And you can make WASFA corrections directly in the Regent site. Corrections will be available for download in WASAC portal the following business day. We really appreciate any of you, reaching out to us. We know sometimes there's IP address problems, and we're working through those with you. So really appreciate you. And just a huge encouragement, if you haven't done this yet, please make sure your staff are set up and registered with Regions so that you can complete those corrections. Hopefully everyone has found that it has been a better process and a more reliable process than we've had before. We're not having the data issues we were having before between systems. And so hopefully this has been really good and efficient for folks. So kind of a glimpse of what this looks like. And here's an example of the Regent system. What you do is you navigate to something called Advisor Assist, and essentially you're seeing what the student is going to see on when they log into their WASFA portal. So it's really cool for a couple different reasons. One, you can just edit the application directly. No problem there. Second thing is it can really help with troubleshooting. I know as we're working with students on the phones and assisting them through email, we are able to use this tool as well to see, okay, what are they seeing? What's going on with their signature? Things like that to help troubleshoot. So it plays a couple different roles. One, efficient corrections process, and then two, just being able to support and help students in a little bit easier of a way. Good question. Can you clarify what the turnaround time is for submitting WASFA corrections in Regent and when the corrected WASFA becomes available? Yeah, so if a person does the correction, say today, you can assume that it would be available the next business day. Depending on the timing, it will depend, but you can assume that, hey, you did the correction, it should be in the portal the next day. So that's a good rule of thumb for this one. Thank you for the question. Okay, I put fall interim. I knew I'd miss something, y'all. There's always something. Winter interim or any interim. This is another huge issue that comes up. And so for a variety of reasons, right? Because we have a lot of different systems that are talking to each other and we need the ID to be the same in all of them. So a lot of times this happens when student creates multiple WASFA accounts. So they forget their login info. They're like, I'm just going to create a new one. This can cause a problem. Also, I think just more commonly and more often, we're seeing that student maybe adds an I-10 or an SSN to their WASFA application, and perhaps they didn't have this on their application in prior years. And so that's creating a match issue in Seesaw. And so there's just a lot of reasons why there might be multiple IDs, but we're going to talk to you about the steps to complete that. Okay, so most importantly, like I talked about a little bit earlier, the hierarchy of awarding in Seesaw is SSN first, then I-10, then WASFA ID. So if a student has an SSN, award on that. If they don't and they have an I-10, award on that. If they don't have either, award on the WASFA ID. So that's a rule of thumb. Okay, so if a student has multiple SSN or I-10 numbers, we got to confirm which one's correct. So if the student has a confirmed SSN, they should be awarded on that number. And like we talked about, the hierarchy. But if there's multiple or conflicting information on these numbers, you'll just want to make sure to double check with the student and make sure you can confirm how that number is correct and whether you need to collect something or however you do that process. Make sure which one is correct. So the next thing is, once the correct ID has been determined and the student is awarded in Seesaw on the correct ID, another step to take is to delete any awards from the incorrect ID. So maybe you have them awarded on a 98 number, and then you're like, oh, actually it's an SSN. So you awarded them on SSN. So you want to make sure to delete the awards from the incorrect ID. And if a duplicate ID still remains for the student, so maybe they awarded in years past, or they've already been paid on that other ID, let us know and we can merge. This is also a really important time to note that there's multiple places that have to match in order for everything to work for the student. So the first place is Seesaw. The second place is their WASFA application. And the third place is the CBS checker. So I know a lot of us will run into from time to time things about the CBS checker and and it's saying they're not eligible, but they've received CBS in the past. And that's usually because the CBS checker is matched to an older ID as well. So all that to say, you can let us know, let WCG know. and that email, you can let us know. We can make sure that the checker application is matched to the right ID. And if you need to merge the ID records, you'll want to send us a secure message via the portal with the student's name and the ID that they should be awarded on. If you haven't deleted the awards from the old ID, we'll let you know and have you do that first before we do the merge process. And then we'll merge the records. So not every multiple ID situation needs a merge. And also, sometimes there's some confusion about merging WASFA applications. We can't merge the WASFA applications, but what you can do is you can add an SSN or an ITIN to a student's application through the corrections process. So basically, once everything aligns, the student will be good to go, but that can take some troubleshooting. So always feel free to reach out if you're like, I'm not sure what's going on with the student, but I've confirmed this is the ID and we can help you. And just keep in mind, look at Seesaw, their application, and the checker to ensure that the students, all have their IDs aligned. All right. That's a good time. We're going to go ahead and move into the walkthrough portion here in our best friend Seesaw and talk a little bit about how the interim report process works. So here's a glimpse at the process. You're going to upload, you're going to resolve the edits, you'll request funds for this term and any terms prior. You're going to review your report. You're going to make sure it looks correct and what you anticipate it to look like, and then you're going to click submit. Very exciting times to click submit. All right, step one, upload your file. So you're going to make sure you have your file already. It's going to be, a CSV file, the incremental format, and you're going to continue to select continue to upload that file. Choose the file. Again, the template is right there in case you need it. The incremental file template is right there, but select your file and hit continue. You can click on the start over button at any point in time if you need to start over again. So feel free to utilize that tool. So the system's going to check for any errors once you upload your file. If there are errors, they'll be listed. And so you can see, there's multiple school codes on this file. That's a problem. I got to review my file and see what's up. A lot of times it'll give you a specific row and column and tell you what the error is. So it's usually really good about pinpointing where you can find it on your file so it can be easily fixed. And then just click on the start over to go back to the original upload screen to start the process again. And then once you've fixed your file, you can do that. So the last step is to kind of review those contents. So a couple things to highlight here. You can see there's 0 records marked for deletion, but if you did have a Y in the is delete column, you can anticipate that you can see the number of records that are marked for deletion. So that's kind of a tool to look at. And then just looking and seeing, okay, this looks like what I anticipated for the award amounts, the total amounts, and what I think I'm uploading. And once that all looks good and correct, you can click the confirm button to move on. There's going to be a status bar that will show you, where you're at as the file is saving to the database. And so you can kind of give an idea. It shouldn't take too long. So if there are some performance issues, always let us know. We can always look into that for you. Once the file is uploaded, you can click on Review Edits to move to that page. And so when you do click on that, you can either click that button or you can click on the tab or the menu, the Seesaw menu in the portal, and go to edits that way to resolve your edits. And of course, we know this is going to be a majority of your work. So there's going to be a lot of things to look at, hopefully a lot less than fall interim. That's usually, the bulk of your edits as you've uploaded all your students into the system and are fixing those edits. That's usually a lot more work, but then hopefully in the winter and spring interim and final, you're really just doing changed students and have a lot less edits to review. If for some reason you have an astronomical amount of edits, feel free to have us take a look at your file because we might be concerned that maybe there's just a lot of students on there, or what changed so much to have all those edits. So yeah, feel free to check in with us. We can take a look at that for you. So when you access the edits tab, you'll see all the edits. And like we talked about, you can group them in different ways. You can group them by type, edit type, non-overridable, overridable, or by fund type. So general edits, CBS edits, you can see that's how it's kind of organized here. And then you just click on the edit to view the students associated with that edit. So our favorite one, the student is okay to award, not okay to pay, hasn't been awarded CBS. You'll be able to see, okay, here's the student, here's their IDs, here's what they're currently awarded. And you see here, these students are in the particular edit because they don't have CBS, and we believe that they're eligible to be awarded. And so you can actually put the CBS amount right in on this screen and click save. To fix that student, or you can go to the student detail record, which we usually do recommend just so that you're looking at and make sure everything looks good for this student. So yeah, either fix it directly on this screen, you can override, save, or delete the award for the student, and or you can go directly to the student's detail record to take a peek and see what's going on with them, and maybe link to the checker if you have other questions. Okay, so speaking of the student detail record, we're all kind of familiar with this, but there's kind of different types of edits, and they are usually shown by this little box with a triangle that indicates that there's an edit. And they can be either term specific, so related to a specific term, or academic year specific, relating to all of the terms of that academic year. And so you'll want to click on the triangle icon if you want to see what the edit is that still needs to be resolved. Maybe the student has multiple edits and ooh, if I, resolve this, I can actually resolve many of the edits. That's always a bonus when you can do that. Or just be aware of kind of the things that you might need to fix for the student. This is an area where we'll also display where if an override is rejected, there'll be a comment in here when you click on the edit, and you can also view the comment there. If you're seeing kind of like, oh, why'd that edit show up again? That's weird. You can see the rejected override comments here. Okay, so to resolve, you can click the edit icon, especially if it's a resolution where you need to award something or change the amount of an award. This is how you edit the payment information or award information. So click the icon, make any updates, and then click Update Student to save. I would recommend refreshing the student detail page, and what will happen is you'll notice the edit will be gone. If you don't refresh the page, you may still see the edit there and wonder, did I actually resolve this? So feel free to click refresh, and then you should see that the edit disappears if it's resolved. All right, you've done that. You've worked all your edits. You are an expert and amazing. So there's just a quick few other steps to do to submit your interim report. First is to request funds. So whoever does that for your office, want to make sure that they select all funds and I think the easiest way to me is to choose all students by program, or alter, and then go into all terms/programs, and then select the different terms that you want to request payment for. Just a reminder too, you can be doing this at any point in time. You can request funds for a given term 10 days prior, up to 10 days prior, before your term starts. So you can be doing this at any time. You can also upload a file anytime. So you can feel free to be uploading files throughout the year for changed student information. You don't have to do this just during the interim time. The interim reporting period is only when you can submit your interim report, not when you can upload a file or request funds. So just a reminder about that. For our clock hour schools, if you're on here, you do have a different time frame in which you can request funds, and I know you all are probably aware of that time frame. All right, so you're going to get all your funds requested. You're going to look at your funds and then look good. Yes, that's what I wanted to do. And you're going to click I agree and request funds, and then that confirmation will appear on the screen once that's been done. So that's a great time to finish that piece of it, and you don't have to worry too much after that. All right. Lastly, if you're going to review your report. So once you go to the interim report tab, you're going to see some different options. First, you're going to see kind of aggregate data, and you're going to see, what was reported, unrequested awards, all kinds of information that's helpful for you. And you'll just want to take a peek at that. Make sure it looks, like as you're expecting. And then on the left-hand side, you're going to see, the submit menu, but then there's also awards and payments, total eligible. These are really good places to take a look. And they're places that I review when I review your report to see, okay, does it make sense the number of students reported or the dollar amount reported given, and because it'll give you a glimpse between academic years. So if everything looks great, you're like, yes, this is all correct. Click submit interim report. And then if that isn't present for some reason, so sometimes it'll be grayed out, then you still have edits to resolve. Another thing to note too is you probably will see in this request funds page, you see how there's the red triangle. It's very small, so I apologize, y'all, but the red triangle that says the edits, if you do have that CBS is not okay to pay edit for some of your students, you can anticipate you'll have that red triangle there. And don't worry about that. It just won't include the students with the edits in your fund request, but you can still request the funds. So that's something I wanted to make sure I noted. Okay, once you submit the report, confirmation email will be sent to you and to us at WCG. And then we'll be reviewing overrides. We actually do this throughout the whole interim period. So as you're uploading your report and working on overrides, we're reviewing those day to day and seeing if there's anything that can be approved or if we need to reject an edit. So we try to do that throughout the time so that you can, make sure to correct those before we even get your report. And so, but we'll certainly reach out to you if your report has been submitted and there's any type of overrides that you need to fix. And we'll give you exactly the information you need to know to fix those overrides. Okay, so moving on to reminders, and then we'll just have a little bit of time for questions from everyone. A reminder to request payments for before submitting your report. So for summer one, if you're a summer one school, fall and winter terms, make sure all payments are requested. Pay close attention to the due date and start early. I always suggest this. I know folks are so busy, but if you can upload your file early and just work little by little, it's going to work so much better. A lot of folks are in there the last couple of days, and it can be really tough to get everything done that you need to within just a couple days time frame. So just encouraging you to start early. And know that you have a month to complete this report. So, and let us know if we can support you in any way. Ask questions. If you don't understand something, reach out to us. We're here for you. You can email us at WCG. And I just wanted to send a reminder too that you can include any questions into WCG. So you don't have to necessarily go to WASFA or CBS for those types of questions. Everything can be filtered through the WCG email. And so that would be if you have checker questions or if you have WASFA questions, you can use the WCG email for anything related to the portal or any of those programs. We're happy to help you. And if we need additional help, we'll loop our colleagues in. But hopefully it's a one-stop shop in terms of providing you support as you're going through this process. Okay, so that is my spiel for the day. Like I said, I really appreciate your time. I know that it's a busy time returning and, it's still technically morning. So I really appreciate you being here and hope the coffee is strong or whatever special drink you have in the morning. I do see we have one question, so I'm going to take a look at that. And then please feel free to put anything else that you're wondering about in the Q&A feature. I'll give you a couple minutes after we give this question a go to allow you some space to do that. And then if not, we'll just go ahead and go on about our day. So the last question I have is, do you recommend working the error report before uploading the very first file to reduce students in Seesaw that aren't enrolled? And is there a way to create a wash, rinse, repeat cycle flow chart to help with how we should conduct this process for interim or reconciliation? Excellent question. I really like that idea because it gives me something to put in my professional goals to have a way to support you. I do think everyone's flow is a little bit different. And I know some schools who upload a file into Portal Training, for example. So Portal Training refreshes every night. You can do anything you want in there and you're not going to break anything. So some schools will upload it into Portal Training. they'll work the edits and fix the students before they upload their file, and then they'll upload the file into regular portal. So that's one way to do that. The other is just uploading your file and working the edits and doing that file anytime. You could actually put that in, if you had more time, say in December, and you had a lot of your information complete for the winter quarter already, you could upload that file in December, be working the edits, and maybe just do a change only file once interim reporting is happening, or not, if you felt like the student information was correct. So you have a little bit of flexibility on how you approach this process. And I think it just depends on what works best for you. But I like the idea of thinking about a flow chart. So if you have more information about what you're thinking about, email me at WCG. I'd love to know more. And I'll think about this a little bit as well and see what I can do to help. If anyone else has excellent suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Always let us know. And yeah, I don't see anything else here.
Oh,
So
Carly.
yeah, Leslie.
Um, yeah, so there's been some additional comments in the answered. I
Oh,
can find a way
great.
to move them back in, but it's related to the CBS
Oh, great. Let me
eligibility.
take a look. Yeah, what can I help with?
It's related to the eligibility date and when that would reflect if a student, I'm assuming, running
Mm.
start. Um,
Student B and C sub because they would have a role in college for the guys, so they would have no in order. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So in this, are we talking about in this situation, the student would be in seesaw because they wouldn't have enrolled in college before they had graduated, so they'd have no aid awarded to them. Yeah. So there's some assumptions that are made in the checker when it comes to the student's high school grad year, for the eligibility window. So there are some assumptions in place, and then once enrollment is entered and an award offered, or any award, it could just be WCG maybe, the 6 years will start counting from there. But in terms of the yes, no, and the eligibility open date, it's probably going to say yes if the student's high school grad year is within the time frame that is still within that 6 year time frame. So I hope that makes sense. It still looks at the data that we have to see if the student's eligible or not. So for example, if a student graduated in 2017, it would have a no in there, even if there wasn't any enrollment data. But it does it will calculate and adjust the calculation once we have enrollment in the checker. So I hope that, enrollment in in Seesaw, sorry. So it looks at a couple different things and is very complex. So yeah, I would say yes or no. To answer your question, Jessica, I would say yes or no. Um, Yeah. Okay. Was there other ones, Leslie? Sorry, I don't want to make sure I didn't miss any other ones.
no, just those. And then looks like we just got a new
Oh,
question about the
great.
due date.
Oh, due date. Yes. Good question. Let me go ahead and pull that up for you. Sorry, I just totally forgot to let you all know that. It's 4 weeks out, so it's going to be, let's see, February 9th is the due date this time. Thank you for asking. Great. Okay, you all will have a wonderful week. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you for attending today. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you at the next one. And if not, reach out to WCG. I'd love to hear from you. Talk with you soon. Bye, y'all.